I'm going to open up this PharmaRx cube because it's the one we've been working on. And the idea, as we started this sort of show today, was to show how you could go from running things in an Excel-centric world to something that you could then expose to your end users that allows for the data to remain fresh. It's not like hooked in directly and embedded into an Excel sheet, and really allow people to be able to dynamically inspect and interact with the data. So this is the output of that cube that we were looking at not that long ago. And so inside of here, you can see there is date, there is demographic, there is geography, there is payer, there is prescriber, product, and RX type. And so if you wanted to then start doing interactive analysis or have your end users do interactive analysis, it is pretty straightforward. So if I drop, I say that, I haven't actually tried this cube, so it may end up firing off errors, but we will see. Yeah, okay, so if I drop in year, we need to be able to deal with the point, but that's fine. And then if I actually wanted to understand the quantity over a month period, I can also drop that in. And so you can see here, we've now got a reasonably basic table that allows us to show quantity over, the years, the 2 years worth of data that we have inside of the platform. If I wanted to then be able to understand how the quantity then mapped out to days supply, I could chuck in days supply. And so you can see, the supply versus the quantity metrics. But then, this is all pretty straightforward, but this allows people to be able to really delve into the data in a flexible manner. Now, if you wanted to be able to understand how that played out by state, I could either drop that into the rows. Let me do this in two different ways. So if I drop that into the rows, you can see, let's see if I can flip these around. Sometimes a little bit fiddly. Let's take that back out. Year and month. So you can see here that by orientating them this way, you've got Illinois, and then you've got the year and the month, and how that quantity and day supply has been dealt with there. And you can see Michigan down below, and so obviously you can go down through this and see how that data is mapped out. Now, that's one way of doing it, but the whole point of doing this analysis is allows for crosstabs and what Excel users know as pivot tables. And so if I then take geography and stick it up on the top, you can see suddenly we've gone and pivoted that data to then really show it in a different manner. So here we've still got Illinois, but we've got quantity and day supply on the top. We've got Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, etc., as we go out in that direction. And now rather than having a super long table, we've got the dates down the side. If I wanted some additional stats, I can then pull up additional stats on that information. So min, max, average, standard deviation across those measures that we're using. And then there's things like spark lines and what have you, which you can then, where it makes sense, this isn't a great example for a spark line, but, you can start to show that information across multiple data sets, trends over time, that type of stuff. There is also, I believe, a spark bar. So again, if I went and whizzed over to the far side, you get a slightly different view. But that's because you've got the years in, it skews the smaller ones, which is why it looks like they're all zero. It's just a volumetric thing. But that sort of gives you an idea as to how the high level analysis worked. But then if you were interested in just a specific year, I could say, okay, keep only 2024. Suddenly I've trimmed down that data set. And that allows me to show just the 2024 information. And then if I was only interested in a number of different geographies, but not all of them, rather than just picking one, I could say, open up the filter here and then show me, Illinois, Michigan, Minnesota, because they're 3 in a row. There we go. And you can see how that then changes for, the view that you're trying to show. And so depending on how you want to be able to demonstrate this to, or allow your users to be able to interact with the data, you can do this either via filters, or you can do it via the security as well. So one of the things that we like to be able to do as an organization is allow for standardized data sets. But then if someone logged in who was only allowed to see the Illinois data. Even though they ran the same query as everyone else, they would only see the Illinois data. If someone was from Michigan and they were only allowed to see the Michigan data, they would only see that, and so on and so on and so on. And this obviously allows for a user to then be able to build out, a repeatable query that they would then be able to save. I'm the admin, so let me call that one Pharma Demo. Hit the save button. That will save. And so now we've got a very basic table. Now, of course, you also want to be able to see stuff graphically. So if I hit the chart button, we can then see how this breaks down over time. Of course, what you might want to do is not show both the measures on the same screen, or you want to be able to show them slightly differently. So if I take out quantity, for example, if I take out day supply, now you're just seeing a graph that demonstrates the quantity of, sales effectively inside of this pharma data set over the 3 different geographic areas that we wanted to be able to see. But then say you want to be able to see it differently. So I want to come in here and instead of seeing a bar, or I want to be able to understand it across the totality of that area, I've now gone and stuck all the quantities on top of each other. So you've then got a total sales, but at the same time, then it's only showing the months of sales down the bottom. Now you'll also see down here, it's taken out 2024 as a year, because most of the time if you're charting this, you don't want to see the parent and all the children. So this is really a good way of being able to allow for users to be able to interact with the data. And again, you could do line charts, you can do area charts, there's a lot of stuff that we have built in here that really allows people to be able to interact with data in a way that allows them to see stuff in, a manner that they want to be able to, allows them to understand. Pie chart's probably not the best example here, but again, it gives you the option to do it. You can come in here, you can change a number of the different properties for each chart, save it, trend lines, all that type of stuff, which really allows you to be able to customize a chunk of this quite nicely. I haven't done this on the fly, so let's see if I save that. Does it give me one? Yes, but it's down the bottom. So that gives you the ability to chart a bunch more and really show a lot of stuff to end users that then have the ability to go and interact with this. Now, of course, not every end user wants to necessarily be able to interact with a chart in an interactive manner like this. They may just want to be able to consume the highlights. So inside of the dashboard, I can create a new dashboard. And so from here, if I just hit the create button, and then I can add a tile. And so Juan, who works for us on the dashboard team here, has done an excellent job of sort of building out the ability to add different stuff into a dashboard, add tiles, add information. So if I really create one of these and then hit the button down here, I've saved a Saiku file. This is the one from before, obviously, that then allows me to then stick this in here. And so what you can then do, if I actually cancel that one, hold on a second, because I picked chart twice. If I add a tile and then add a table, I can then go back and instead of rendering all of it, there we go. So you could choose to either show a chart or a table or a chart for the same data so that people can obviously interact with that data in a very similar manner. Now you can also add filters to this. So if you want to then be able to filter by specific, state, for example, if I then pick Michigan, you can see how it's then gone and adjusted the filter state so that it's filtered purely by Minnesota, and really gone and allow people to interact with that data without also having to create the analysis in the first place. So normally inside of here, you would then have a number of different tiles, all showing a variety of different data. Some of it fixed, some of it might be KPIs, some of it may be the tables that we looked at or the charts. And, obviously you can resize these elements to fit and then allow people to be able to interact with that data in a manner that, is more accustomed to a dashboard environment. can save that, you can share it. They're all versioned, so you can roll backwards and forwards when you're doing this stuff. But this is, primarily the driver for how the Saiku platform as a UI allows you to interact with the data itself.